Hi, ladies and gents. So, first bit of the fractions review. Okay, so for 1, we're being asked to name a fraction between each pair of fractions. So I went with 1D. So again, anytime you're being asked to compare fractions, order fractions, find something between them, add them, subtract them, you're always finding common denominators. The only time we're not finding common denominators is when we're multiplying and dividing. So with this, I'm just multiplying this whole fraction by 8 and this whole fraction by 5. And then that gives me 24 over 40 and 35 over 40. And then anything between 24 and 35 works. So I could say 25 over 40, no problem at all. For number 2, it's saying Fletcher completed 3/5 of the test and Lalo completed 2/3 of the test. Who completed more? Well, in a roundabout way, they're asking you to compare fractions. So again, common denominators. Multiply this whole fraction by 3 and multiply this whole fraction by 5. Gives me 9 over 15 and 10 over 15. So that means that Lalo completed more of the test. And then part B says, how many questions might have been on the test? Well, 15 questions could have been on the test, or 30 questions, or 45. For 3, they gave us 5 fractions, all here, and they're saying put them in order from least to greatest. It's basically the same thing as what we're doing up top. It's just now we've got a lot more denominators to try to find a common denominator that works. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to try to find the common denominator. So I looked at the prime numbers first, 3, 7, and 5, because I know those have to be multiplied in. Otherwise, we'll never find a common denominator. So that gave me 105. I know that wouldn't work with 10 for sure right away because all the multiples of 10 end in a 0. So then I thought, okay, I'll throw in the next smallest number, the 8. 3 times 5 times 7 times 8 gives me 840. So I know it works with 3, 5, 7, and 8 for sure because those are all multiplied together. It also ends in a 0. So it works with 10. Now, if you did just multiply all of them together, that's fine too. Like I said, that's the guaranteed way of finding common denominator. It just would have been bigger, so it would have been 8,400, and that'd be totally cool. It works. So now it's just converting all of these to fractions with that common denominator, so making them all fractions over 840. So you can see here I multiplied by 84, and you may be saying, well, how'd you know how to multiply by 84? I just took my common denominator of 840 and I divided by 10. It gives me 84. Same thing here. 840 divided by 3 gives me 280, because then that tells me that 280 times 3 gives me 840. And that's what I did for the others. So 840 divided by 7 is 120, so on and so forth. Okay? And then obviously multiply the numerators by those same numbers. And then that gets me all the fractions, the equivalent fractions over 140. And then from there, it's super easy to order them from smallest to largest. 280 is the smallest numerator, then 315, then 336. Okay? For number 5, they are asking us to add. I chose 5C because there's 3 of them. So again, finding common denominators is the first thing we're going to do. And then you can see I just multiplied this whole fraction by the other 2 denominators, so by 3 and by 10. This whole fraction was multiplied by 2 and by 10, and then this whole fraction was multiplied by 2 and by 3. So 3 times 3 times 10 is 90, 5 times 2 times 10 is 100, 9 times 2 times 3 is 54. And then add the numerators up, it gives me 244 over 60. Now we have an improper fraction, and I know I've been saying it a bunch and I've given it to you in your feedback for some of your assessment focuses. Please don't leave fractions like this. I want them as a mixed number in lowest terms, okay? So if I want to know how many groups of 60 fit in 244, well, I know that 6 times 4 is 24, so 60 times 4 would be 240, so that leaves me with 4 left over, and then I got to put this in lowest terms. Divide by 2, divide by 2, 4 and 2/30ths, and then I can bring that even lower. So I can still divide by 2, and I get 4 and 1/15. Okay, moving on. Last 2 questions. 6 asked us to subtract, so I chose C. Common denominators first. just multiplied by the other denominator. So this fraction by 8, this fraction by 9, gave me 64 over 72 and 9 over 72. Subtract the numerators, gives me 55 over 72, and that one happens to be in lowest terms already. Then 7 said you get to add or subtract, and they've given us mixed numbers to work with. So first thing, mixed numbers, no matter what you're doing, always go in proper fraction. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus another one's 13 over 6. And then 8 times 4 plus 7, 39. Common denominators, multiply this whole fraction by 8, this whole fraction by 6, gives us these. Add the numerators, we get 338 over 48. If you're not sure how many groups of 48 go into 338, that's okay. On your calculator, just do what it says here, 338 divided by 48. You'll see your calculator will spit out 7 decimal something or another. So you know you get 7 whole groups. Then you can just do 48 times 7, and it gives you 336. So we know from 336 to 338 there's a difference of 2, so that's your numerator. Lowest terms, divide both by 2, you get 7 and 1/24. D, 3.5 minus 2 3/4, same thing. Improper fraction first. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 4 times 2 is 8, plus another 3 is 11. Now common denominators, I have 2 and 4. I could multiply them together, but I know that 4 is a multiple of 2, so I'm just going to change this one. So I just need to double it, so it gives me 14 over 4. So 14/4 minus 11/4 is 3/4, and we know that's lowest terms. Okay. As always, if you have questions about anything that you saw here or didn't see, please message me in Google Classroom and we can go over it. And then for today's work, I'm going to work on numbers 8 to 15. Okay, bye for now.